Hello, you're watching A News Morning from Baku. I'm Bakhtiar Sanov, and let's see the headlines. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan calls for unity, peace and cooperation at D8 summit in Cairo. European Union pledges additional 30 billion euros financial support to Ukraine in 2025. French President Emmanuel Macron booed by crowd as he arrived in cyclone-hit Mayotte. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan attended the D8 summit in Cairo, Egypt, where he delivered key remarks on Syria's territorial integrity, the importance of global peace and strengthening regional cooperation. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan reaffirmed Turkey's support for Syria in its ongoing challenges and emphasized the role of the D8 in fostering economic and diplomatic collaboration. Erdogan's statements highlighted Turkey's commitment to resolving regional conflicts, particularly in Syria, while positioning itself as a leader in global peace efforts and economic cooperation. His remarks reflected Turkey's strategic role in promoting stability and collaboration among D8 member states. Erdogan welcomed Azerbaijan's inclusion in D8, praising its recent achievements and emphasizing its role in strengthening the organization. Azerbaijan was unanimously elected as the new member of the Developing Aid, marking the organization's first expansion since its founding. Turkish President pointed to the failure of international institutions in addressing growing conflicts and crises and urged stronger global efforts to restore security and stability. Syria's de facto leader Ahmed al-Sharaa has called on Western countries to lift sanctions following the fall of Bashar al-Assad's regime as the country enters a transition period. Al-Sharaa, the leader of the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham group that ousted Assad, de facto leader of Syria's administration, sees the drafting of a new constitution as crucial for the future. He stated that sanctions no longer make sense and urged their removal. Al-Sharaa acknowledged the challenges posed by HTS being labeled a terrorist organization by the West, but emphasized his focus on Syria's future.
We must deal with the Syrian issue in line with current events. These current events require the lifting of all sanctions, because these sanctions were placed on Syria due to the regime that was ruling Syria and had committed all these crimes. These sanctions must be lifted, then we will be able to implement our programs for growth and reform in the country. In my belief, Syria will be normal, and that is something that I will push for. But the final decision to the structure and constitution of the state should not be in the hands of one person, which means I can't tell you that Syria must be in this structure and so on. This is illogical, as there are 27 million people living in Syria, and it has those with competence and expertise, as well as people who care about their country and nation. So I'll be leaving all of this in the hands of specialized committees chosen by the people to determine the laws of the upcoming state.
People of Syria stand at a moment of history and a moment of opportunity. That opportunity cannot be missed, the UN Chief Antonio Guterres says. The Secretary General also cautioned not to underestimate the scale of the challenges that lie ahead. While the situation has stabilized in parts of Syria, the conflict is far from over.
If the ongoing situation is not managed carefully by the Syrians themselves with the support of the international community, there is a real risk that progress could unravel. The political transition ahead must be by Syrians and for Syrians, all Syrians. It must be inclusive, credible, and peaceful. All communities must be fully integrated into the new Syria. The rights of women and girls must be fully respected, and the process must be guided by the underlying principles of Security Council Resolution 2254.
Meanwhile, Christmas events are celebrated in Syria's capital, Damascus, just 13 days after the defeat of President Bashar al-Assad's regime.
In Damascus, visitors strolled around the Christmas market and took pictures of the bright Christmas decorations. After the collapse of President al-Assad's regime, Christmas celebrations opened to the public. for the first time in 13 years. A Syrian couple visiting the Christmas market hopes for Syria to be rebuilt as a diverse nation.
Life does not stop for anyone. Syria is a country for all sects and religions. If Bashar al-Assad is overthrown or we get rid of a tyrant, we will start to rebuild Syria together, all sects and religions.
Residents radiate with joy as the nation embraces a sense of safety, living up to the holiday spirit. On December 8th, the Islamist group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham took control of Syria after advancing to Damascus. Since then, many Syrians, fearing persecution, have fled despite promises of safety. Meeting in Jordan on December 14th, diplomats from the U.S., Turkey, the European Union, and Arab states call for Syria's new government to uphold minority rights, fostering unity amid diverse religious and cultural heritage.
The European Union is set to deliver an additional 30 billion euros of financial support to Ukraine in 2025. This announcement came from the President of the European Council, Antonio Costa, following a meeting with EU leaders in Brussels. Costa also highlighted that the EU has already provided about 130 billion euros in financial aid to Ukraine since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022. The President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, stated that Ukraine could begin EU accession talks early next year, with more negotiations to follow.
We will implement the 15 sanctions package against Russia we approve this week. This package closes loopholes and limits circumvention and especially targets the so-called shadow fleet. Second, we have already delivered about 130 billion euros of financial support, and we will deliver an additional 30 billion euro in 2025.
And in parallel, we continue to accompany Ukraine on its path of accession to our Union. If Ukraine keeps up the good work, we should be ready to open the first cluster of accession negotiations early next year. Some others could follow during that year as well.
The President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, has urged Europe and the United States to adopt a united and resolute stance amid the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. Speaking in Brussels, Zelensky highlighted the pressing need for coordinated efforts to ensure security and stability in the region.
At a press conference in Brussels, the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, reiterated Ukraine's position against accepting a frozen conflict and stressed the importance of security guarantees for the country.
We must understand that we cannot live with a frozen conflict. When it comes to a ceasefire, in any conflict, in any war, people know what will happen after, how it will all end. We need to know what tomorrow is in order to make a ceasefire today.
The Ukrainian leader also highlighted ongoing discussions about potential foreign peacekeeping efforts, stressing the need for US involvement in these talks. Commenting on the incoming US administration, Zelensky expressed optimism.
Welcome, Donald. What can I say? That's... for us, it's very important that I think that President Trump is a strong man, and I want very much to have him on our side. For me, it's very important. I want to discuss with him more details about this war. I think it's very important because he was not in this war, because he was not the president. It's understandable. And I want to share with him more details.
Responding to Russian President Vladimir Putin's suggestion to revisit a 2022 Istanbul agreement, Zelensky dismissed the claims, clarifying that Ukraine never accepted any Russian ultimatums during those talks.
Ukraine did not agree to the Russian ultimatum. They tried to take the next steps to soften their position somewhat regarding this ultimatum. And these were meetings, you remember. They were both held in Belarus and in Turkey. And they called all these meetings the Istanbul Agreement. Ukraine did not sign anything. There were no agreements. There was a response to a Russian ultimatum.
Угод не існувало. Була відповідь на ультиматум Російської Федерації.
The president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, attended Brussels, where he met European leaders and NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte to discuss strengthening Kyiv's war effort and securing long-term security guarantees.
Thank you for being here.
A court in Moscow has ordered the suspect in the killing of top Russian General Igor Kirilov to be placed in pre-trial detention for 2 months. The court made this announcement on its Telegram channel. The accused of a native of Uzbekistan has been charged with an act of terrorism that resulted in the death of General Kirilov, who was the head of Russia's nuclear, biological and chemical protection troops. The suspect allegedly confessed to planting and detonating the bomb in Moscow that killed General Kirilov. Russian authorities claim the attack was carried out under the orders of the Security Service of Ukraine. The United Kingdom imposes sanctions on the senior Georgian officials in response to the government's handling of recent protests. The demonstrations erupted after the suspension of EU accession talks. The sanctions specifically target high-ranking members of Georgia's Interior Ministry who were held responsible for overseeing the harsh actions against protesters. The alleged excessive use of force by law enforcement led to the UK imposing sanctions on the officials involved. Protests erupted in Georgia after Prime Minister Irakli Kobakidze's decision last month to suspend negotiations on the country's bid to join the European Union, citing blackmail and manipulation from the bloc's politicians. A lawmaker was killed and another wounded in a shooting at the parliament of Abkhazia, a breakaway Georgian region. The suspected shooter, a fellow lawmaker, filed the scene, and authorities are now investigating.
A shooting inside the so-called parliament of Abkhazia, a breakaway region of Georgia, led to the death of a secessionist politician, Vakhtang Golandzia. Another victim of the incident, Kan Kvarchia, was injured.
2 patients were brought to the Republican hospital. Patient Golandzia was brought in a state of clinical death. He was immediately taken to the intensive care unit, where urgent resuscitation measures were started. Unfortunately, they were unsuccessful, and the patient passed away. Patient Kvarchia was also brought in with a gunshot wound to the shoulder and scalp. The patient is currently in surgery, and the team of surgeons is attending to his condition.
Igor Kirilov, a fellow politician, was identified as the suspect in the shooting. He fled the scene, and the motive for the attack remains unknown. This comes amid ongoing political unrest in Abkhazia, following protests that forced the resignation of the separatist leader over a controversial investment deal with Russia.
The suspect in the killing of United Health CEO Brian Thompson was charged with federal murder and stalking crimes in a Manhattan courtroom, alongside state murder and terrorism charges previously announced by New York prosecutors. The 26-year-old Mangione was arrested in Pennsylvania in connection with the December 4th attack on Thompson and was brought to a federal court in Manhattan, where he was held without bail. Mangione was charged with murder on December 9th for killing United Health CEO outside a Manhattan hotel. He was apprehended after a 5-day manhunt following the incident. Investigators have said Mangione was a critic of United Healthcare and the broader healthcare industry. Friends and social media posts indicate that he suffered from chronic back pain, though it remains unclear whether health condition is related to the shooting. Prosecutors have stated that both state and federal charges will proceed in parallel, with state charges expected to go to trial first. French President Emmanuel Macron visited Mayotte following the devastating aftermath of Cyclone Chido. Agitated residents of Mayotte have called on Macron for more urgent aid.
On Thursday, President Emmanuel Macron toured the storm-ravaged island of Mayotte, where Cyclone Chido left a path of destruction. The storm, which hit earlier this month, has caused widespread devastation, with many areas still inaccessible due to the damage. During his visit, Macron was met with anger from the local population in Pamanzi, where crowds shouted and booed, demanding more immediate assistance. As of now, French officials have confirmed at least 31 fatalities, but fears persist that the true death toll could be much higher. The island's residents, particularly in shantytown areas, are facing extreme hardship. Heavy rains have worsened conditions, and many people remain without shelter or basic supplies. Macron's visit comes at a time when opposition politicians have accused his government of neglecting the territory, which is one of France's poorest overseas regions. Despite these criticisms, Macron promised to ramp up support, announcing the deployment of 400 additional gendarmes to maintain security and pledging to increase the delivery of food and water via air and sea.
In the United States, Amazon workers have gone on strike at several facilities across the country in efforts to pressure their retailer into contract talks with their union. This comes as the company is in the crucial final days of the holiday season.
Hundreds of Amazon workers walked off the job early at 7 U.S. facilities across the country. These workers from cities including New York, Atlanta, and San Francisco are trying to pressure the retailer into a sit-down with their union. The protesters claim unfair pay and treatment from the tech giant.
We're working and doing these jobs and, sacrificing our bodies, and we're not even getting a livable wage to live in the cities for the city that we provide our service for. And not only do I look at my coworkers and see how just dog-tired and wear and tear it takes on their bodies, but we're not even given proper benefits.
All of us are living paycheck to paycheck. All of us have gotten behind on bills. Most of us have second or third jobs, or sometimes this is our second and third job. They keep a lot of us part-time so that they don't have to give us any health benefits. So a lot of us also are paying for health benefits out of pocket as well, just to be able to go see a doctor when we get hurt.
These demonstrations come as Amazon rushes out packages in the final run-up to Christmas. However, the company says it does not expect an impact on its operations following the strike, and so its shares trading 1.5% higher in pre-market hours, a sign that investors share similar views. Earlier this year, Amazon announced a $2.1 billion investment to raise pay for fulfillment and transportation employees in the US, increasing base wages by roughly 7%. The tech giant is the world's second largest private employer after Walmart and has more than 800,000 people at its US warehouses. Observers say Amazon is unlikely to come to the table to bargain, as that could open the door for more union actions.
Let's talk about the holidays now. There is a new concept of Santa Claus using artificial intelligence, answering children's questions through the screen.
Welcome to Santa's study.
Normally, we use AI engines such as ChatGPT to ask questions and receive prompt answers. But this Christmas season, Ask Santa is a fun interactive program that lets kids chat with Santa Claus one by Breakthrough T1D, a nonprofit gathering donations for type 1 diabetes research.
I'm so very proud of you for being on the nice list.
Santa Claus, how many reindeer do you have?
Oh, I have so many I couldn't even count. But I have the famous Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, Blitzen. And of course, Rudolph.
The program uses Storyfile's conversational video technology, combining AI with pre-filmed content to create safe, real-time interactions for children.
Away from you. So, if I seem a little slow with my answers, it might be a problem with my Wonderland Wi-Fi.
It is so amazing, the technology behind Ask Santa. Storyfile interviewed Santa for hours and hours on end. There is no going out to the internet like ChatGPT or other AI platforms. The questions are all in the database. Santa can't hallucinate. He can't make up crazy questions from ChatGPT. It is a safe and secure platform for your kids to talk to Santa.
Originally developed during the COVID-19 pandemic, Storyfile partnered with Breakthrough T1D this year to use Ask Santa as a fundraising tool.
I don't see you there. A nice list.
Well, that's all we have for this hour. You can also get latest news and headlines around the clock on our website, that is anews.tv. Thank you for watching, and also we wish you a good day ahead.